With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
One of iRacing's very newest circuits, ready for F3 action here in the Precision Racing League on Open Wheel Night. We're already around a third of the way through this season and there's no better time to head to the flatlands of northern France and Magny-Cours for 28 laps of racing. It will be enjoyable sprint racing tonight, let's hope so, from start to finish. Well, that's what we get from the Formula 3 series, and hopefully we get that again tonight. Welcome to RaceSpotTV. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Lorenzo Bonda here tonight. Lorenzo, it's great to be alongside you once again. It's not going to be a long one. It's going to be all out from start to finish. It's going to be pure sprint racing in these cars that were designed for exactly this.
Yeah, precisely, and it's a track that already hosted F1 many seasons ago, and I think it's due to be back anytime soon after the contract with La Castellet is done. But as we see the calendar, we've just gone through Jerez, a very fun track. I think one of the best races we ever had this season. We even had a race to the line for second place. I don't know if Magny-Cours is going to deliver on that, but it's going to deliver on a lot of drama, I think, especially with the pit stops that we have in the middle of the race.
Magny-Cours not quite as new as Jerez actually in the iRacing service, but still relatively so. A nice mix of circuits though, from the big wide open Grand Prix circuits like this one and the Hungaroring to come a little bit later on, to some little bit smaller and shorter and stranger circuits. Brands Hatch coming up next week is a stark contrast to this one, and the Rutskogen Motor Centre at the very end of the season there, definitely different to what we are going to be experiencing here tonight. Let's tell you a little bit about what's been happening so far this season and where we stand in the championship standings. Giulio Palacio is currently leading ahead of Stephen Ridders by 18 points. Andrew Moran is 30 points back ahead of Lucas Hill. Then we've got James Malaire in the 5th position with Barry Cochran in the 6th. Byron Daly 7th, despite not starting the first round. Then it is Ozzy Milwyn, James Carter and Neil Alexander inside the top 10. Only one of those, by the way, have won a race so far this season. That was Giulio Palacio back at the most recent round, back last week at Jerez. Also in the Teams Championship standings, we've currently got Atomic Racing leading this one by 12 points. Yellow Stripe Motorsports Black currently in the 2nd place. Speedworks Racing Team, the first in the standings to have won a race ahead of the other Atomic Red Panda team. Then it's Nox Esport, E-Motorsports and the rest of them. All of the top 5 there, separated by less than 50 points. It's very, very close indeed, and possibly too early to be thinking about those kind of things anyway. But we like to talk about the championship standings right from the very start, because why not? It gives us a good idea of where we are heading into the 4th round of the season, of which this is, of course. let's not go any further, of course, without thanking the sponsors that make this broadcast possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASI products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotTV.com and get a 5% discount on Racebox products using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Bookkicker provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-end sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And finally, NinjaTrader. Better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com to access unlimited free trade simulation. Big thanks to all of those for making these broadcasts possible here at RaceSpotTV every night in the Precision Racing League here for Season 2 of 2023. Qualifying currently underway right now from Magny-Cours. A 20-minute open qualifying session, meaning that everybody's out there together. It's a little bit different to what we see from some of these Precision Racing League qualifying sessions. Just less than 3 minutes to go right now, Lorenzo, so I'm not expecting to see massive changes, to be honest, and I'm not seeing too many big surprises. Julia Palacio championship lead and also qualifying session lead right now as well. The only driver to be below the 1 minute 31 mark.
Yeah, but just barely into the 30-minute mark, just by 1,000 of a second is Palacio, as we see Potts, and now Jake Potts trying to wrap up his lap, knowing that Potts, if I remember correctly, had a promising race around Trackcast. Doesn't look like to be a massive improvement, but still is good enough to put him on top of the leaderboard.
Well, I said my first line of this qualifying session was, I don't think much is going to change. And guess what? The biggest thing of them all has changed. So that serves me right, I suppose, for speaking too soon. Potts at the front then, 0.5 of a second, and he also joins Palacio as one of the only drivers to get below that 1 minute 31 mark. There might well be improvements further down as well. Michael Dowden down in 9th place right now, but just backs off here coming out of turn 14, which is just before the run towards the line. And it is an intricate and awkward ending to the lap here, Lorenzo. We'll be able to dive into it a little bit more as we get into the racing, but down there at turn 15, it's sort of a standard 90-degree corner, and then we've got one of the weirdest chicanes in motorsport through 16 and 17, which these Formula cars, especially so low to the ground, are going to have a bit of trouble over, maybe.
Yeah, they kind of do a very weird setup, as we see a car crashing in the background. You can kind of ride it on a little bit of the sausage curb on the entry, but the second one is a little bit more than turtle-like, as we see Steven Ritters throughout the sector 2, going to sector number 3. And it's quite interesting to try to break down how this track works. It has a little bit of everything, you know, in terms of elevation changes and all, different style of corners. So it's very hard for you to tackle a perfect lap, as Blake City now gets into P6 in the final moments of disqualifying. Don't know if we're going to see massive up and downs in disqualifying with 30 seconds to go.
Nice lap from Blake Ziti, who hasn't completed a race since the very first round of this championship. On board with Steven Ridders. Needs a big performance here, currently second in the points and does get into the top 10 with a late lap time. It's 9th place for him, just 6 temps down on Potts at the front. The final seconds, this qualifying session tick away though, and Palacio once again not able to go any quicker. Well, through the first couple of corners, going to go, and I've got to say, some of the most enjoyable corners to drive in all of France. I know that there's plenty of nice race circuits around here, but Really enjoy this first section. We're going to stay on board for a little bit with Palacio though to really see what this circuit has to offer. The best overtaking opportunity on the circuit coming up here down at Adelaide. One of the tightest chicanes in France as well coming up here. Excuse me, tightest hairpins I should say. A slight rise in the road just on the exit and the completely nothing turn 6, which is right there. And then turns 7 and 8, another chicane that has quite a lot of tarmac on the outside unfortunately, but it is a challenge. And then an ever slowing turn 9 here, which is called 180 degrees and does exactly what it says on the tin. Out of the corner to the right through turn 10 and turn 11 as well, which is even less of a corner than turn 10 is. And in towards another chicane, very similar. This is Imola, 12 and 13. Bouncing over the curbs and the tarmac for Palacio here as well. He'll back off coming towards the end of the lap at turn 14. That's going to be it. It looks like Palacio will be on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, and from what it looks like, we're going to have our 4 different polling this season, which shows, like I said in the Jerez broadcast, there has been up to that point, I think, if I remember correctly, 16 different finishes in the top 10, which makes the unpredictability in the series quite different. So I'm really looking forward to see if there will be more different finishes in the top 10. If we're going to have a different winner this season, also in this race.
Absolutely, we've got 3 different winners so far. Palacio, of course, being one of them. We've also got Carter Hutchison taking the first round of the season and Cody Graham's taking the second one. But only one of those 3 in the top 10 in the point standings at the moment. So it does show what a topsy-turvy season it has been in some ways. Will that continue tonight? Well, let's find out. Jake Potts will be looking to add his name to the list of winners alongside Julia Palacio and Connor Harrington, who's up there as well in 3rd. Alexander Rivera is in the 4th place with Ollie Milwain, and Blake Seaty sharing row 3 behind. In 7th place, John Quinn for Rookie Esports in the 91 will be alongside Stephen Varady. Then it is Stephen Ridder, 2nd in the points, 9th in the standings here, alongside teammate Max Shabley in the top 10. It's teammates on row 6 as well, with Michael Dowden and Eric Dubé representing Yellow Stripe Motorsports, although they won't be scoring points for the same total. It's another Yellow Stripe car in 13th with Kevin McPherson, with Richard Swindles ahead of Takeshi Kita. Austin Harris will be 16th ahead of Sully Sad. Then we've got Michael O'Quinn in the 18th place. Rounding out the top 20, Jake Vasconcelos ahead of Indisa Scarlett. Then it will be Lucas Hill in the 21st ahead of Neil Alexander. Gavin Ray and James Carter sharing row 12. 25th will be Oliver Hartley. Then it will be Evan Jones, 26th. Drew Duese and Barry Cochrane in the 28th position. And a surprise, to be honest, to see him set a lap time and be down in 26th, given the fact he is 6th place in the point standings at the moment. Although hasn't managed to get a top 5 as even despite that. 28 laps on the board here tonight, or 45 minutes, whichever one comes first. With the pace of these drivers, it's much likely to be 28 laps, although we will be running pretty close to the 45-minute mark either way. 28 drivers set up and ready to go racing for round 4 of the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series live at Magny-Cours. Jake Potts with a nice lap relatively late on to seal it in qualifying. Just ahead of Julia Palacio. Connor Harrington looking menacing there in the background as well. He had a decent performance last week up there inside the top 5. Will he be able to repeat that or even go a little bit better? And just see the final few drivers grilling up in the background. And then we will be ready to go racing and take the lights out and set them off in towards turns 1, 2 and 3, the flowing corners that they are. And then up towards the hairpin at 5. That's where the action will be. The revs rise in northern France and we're ready to go racing for round 4. Underway with Jake Potts having a good reaction. It's a slow start from 1 and 2 in the middle, but it's pretty much neck and neck for the first couple of positions. Jake Potts will take it ahead of Julia Palacio. Alexander Rivera has managed to get up to 3rd, although it's brief. Connor Harrington back up again into the 3rd position. They'll run side by side out of turn 4 and down the back straight they'll go into the madness that will be turn 5 down at Adelaide. It's a big lead at the moment for Jake Potts as Julia Palacio gets things wrong. Harrington alongside They'll go down deep on the brakes. Harrington will get the second position. Will everybody get through cleanly? I can see smoke already, and there is contact. That was always expected.
That was totally expected around Adelaide. It's always always a messy corner with a lot of chaos. Unfortunately, a few contacts right there. Easy to overshoot your braking. But Harrington having a perfect start so far, and Palacio just dropping down, nearly causing contact, nearly spun around what it looked like to be Alex Rivera.
That's me. Palacio not having a good start from the outside of the front row. Side by side into Imola they go. And they sort themselves out with Quinn just in behind as well. They'll all stack up in the braking zone of turn 14. It's a terrible start for the championship leader, although he won't be too worried about those points at the moment, just looking to stop the rot. That is an extremely damaged Michael O'Quinn there, I'm afraid. And that Formula 3 car is going to be heading back down pit lane again in a few moments' time. Let's have a look at what's happened here. Well, he's already got no rear wing here, so I'm just trying to get it back to pit lane, excuse me. Michael O'Quinn, and giving us a demonstration of just how important aerodynamics are, giving us all a physics lesson.
Oh, you stole my line.
Yeah. Well, it's I can't say I'm too surprised by what's happened there, given the fact he had no rear wing at all. As Connor Harrington on the defensive here, it's not from Giulio Palacio, who he overtook initially. It's from Ozzy Milwain on the outside line. Can't get it done there, but already Jake Potts out to nearly a 2-second lead.
Yeah, and we are also seeing problems, I think, from what it looks like to Max Chablis, which is the one thing that Chablis doesn't want. Like, always having a really promising race, had a very good first a decent round in Laguna Seca, but after that, it's just going downhill for the Atomic Racing driver.
It was so desperate not to clatter into the side of everybody there at Adelaide. I think just it stood on the brakes a little bit too much there and went around. Yeah. Not disaster at all though, down to 11th, and he'll be able to recover from there. Harrington certainly having to look over his shoulder though, because Milwain and Rivera are both very close in attendance towards the end of lap 2 right now. And already Jake Potts is being allowed to some lead. That's a bit of a lock up from Milwain down in towards turn 15. And they'll bounce over the curbs as well. Almost losing the rear end as well. Alex Rivera. Palacio will just get a little bit as a result as well. But they'll look to settle into the race. Now at this point we're a couple of laps down and leaders getting strung out and settling into their rhythm.
Absolutely, as we see what was actually the battle for the lead in the last race in Jerez between Rivera and Palacio, but I'm battling outside of the portion of the top 5, and you can see a little bit of a break between them and Milwain and Harrington. Milwain needs a really good race over here because he actually was I think one of the first victims in Jerez that actually had to DNF the car. He was the third car to DNF, as we also see John Quinn in the rookie esports modern racing prince, and also having a really decent race. I think this is the first time I've seen maybe Quinn inside of the top 10. Not featured even in the last race.
Oliver Hartley with no rear wing at Adelaide. Excuse me, James Carter with no rear wing. I have a feeling a whole load of drivers involved here, and that's. Let's have a look. So side by side towards Adelaide, and be interested to see how he loses a rear wing here. Just oh dear, oh dear.
No,
goodness me, it was far too late on the brakes, and. Clattered into the side of the car in front, and well, there you are. There's the result. I'm slightly surprised. I've got to say that we're 3 laps in, and we've already seen that happen twice, where somebody's battling side by side with somebody else, and they outbrake themselves entirely, clattering into someone else.
Yeah, which is unfortunate to see. But then again, it's the nature of this track. There are some corners that can be very misleading. Adelaide, most notably, of all corners, because it is basically nearly a 180-degree, very tight hairpin, and there's some lines you can actually try to take it. We've seen even at the Porsche Esports Super Cup how messy that corner can be, but well, unfortunately they don't have the benefit of having a little bit of more of a hard body than they do in the Porsche. Any damage over here because of the soft body modifications in iRacing, I think in this build. can be devastating, if not race-ending for the cars. And we're looking at those introspects of crash equals the wing or something else probably damaged.
Well, that is a shame, unfortunately. Hopefully we can limit that now as the race continues on. It's already seen 3 drivers down pit lane. Eric Dubé has been in now for nearly 4 minutes. Michael O'Quinn has been able to re-emerge, and James Carter has not long been in there just yet. But going to see some early pit stops down there at the back. This is the shot down towards the final couple of corners. Turn 15, and 16 and 17, the final chicane. We're all single file at this stage, especially in this top 10 kind of region. Closest battle certainly with Michael Dowden, kind of cork in the bottle kind of style here, with Stephen Varady, Blake Ziti, Stephen Ridders and Max Shabley not too far away. This is the view from the front of that train. Dowden though just very quick off of turn 3, and that's going to give Stephen Varady quite some work to do. Down the back straight here and in towards Adelaide, but the slipstream is quite mighty here in these open wheelers, and now down the inside will go Varady. Very nearly saw the same thing happen all over again. They'll go side by side in, out of the corner, and possibly towards the next chicane as well.
Yeah, apparently they went just through a back marker right there. ZD nearly goes flat into the back of Michael Dowden right there. It had to lift off. That it opens up the door for Ritters to actually come closer and closer towards the back wing of the Williams liveried driver. And ZD, I think for the first time, breaking into the top 10. I think he might have broke also in Laguna Seca. I need to verify that, but other than that, ZD just trying to bounce back from the abysmal race he had back in Jerez.
Absolutely. It's a nice side-by-side battle between them. Already getting through, and Dowden now seemingly going to slip and slide even more. Blake Ziti was very close to getting involved there on that last lap. You can see him in the white and blue just in behind. So he will be next. A nice run through the chicane and over the line for the driver of the number 50, and we're looking to, as I said earlier, finish his first race for a couple of rounds. Now it's been disappointing for him so far, but this is a nice run inside the top 10. Though maybe not so much of a nice run around turn 3. It's one of those corners where you can swing wide at the beginning and catch a late apex and catch a good run on the back straight. That's what CT seems to have done here, and it forces Dowden to go defensive. Outside line for CT, that's very late on the brakes into the very tight turn 5, but he's hung it all the way around, and that was a very nice move for 8th place.
Absolutely. I thought he was actually going to be able to make it, as we see a car spinning the back from what it looks like. Lucas Hill. Yeah, unfortunately, just managed to come back on track, but lost, I think, about 4 or 5 positions in the process trying to make it back to the track.
See whether it was assisted or whether entirely on his own. And well, I think we've got our answer already, really. It's going to be completely on his own, late on the brakes, and there it is again. I've got to say I'm a little bit surprised. I've watched a fair amount of F3 racing, but clearly not enough, because I wasn't expecting the braking towards turn 5 to be quite such an issue.
It is. These cars are quite sensitive towards the braking, especially I think in the first few laps. The car is settling down to a rhythm already, as we see now Dowden try to defend himself off from Ritters nearly at the final corner, going through 15, 16, and 17, and Ritters, who's actually interestingly enough P2 in our points, but only one top 3 finish in this championship, which was actually round 2. Where he actually got, if I remember correctly, he got third place just before Byron Daly and Cody Grams in Hockenheim. But you know, it's one of those tricky corners where I think more than 60% or 70% can easily lock up the car on its rears, and basically it is a self-spin cause for any drivers that try to go a little bit more risky than usual.
It's quite remarkable, really. As I say, I do commentate on another F3 league, and I still haven't noticed it to quite this degree, but there we are. That could just be me. Ridders is very, very close behind Dowden, though, and definitely needs these points, as he mentioned. Only one top 5 so far this season, indeed, and it did indeed come at round 2. So he really needs some more points back on his side here with Palacio still in front of him in 5th place right now. He needs to try and work on this move. Very close to the back of the car in front there, in towards turn 14. Doesn't seem to be quite strong enough in the areas where he needs to be to have a go, because down here at turn 15 it's not all that much use. There's not quite the opportunity to go down the inside. Really needs to get that run towards turn 5 and make the move there.
Yeah, absolutely. It is quite critical. I think for you to get a run around 15, you need to have a perfect exit coming out of 14. So as they nearly go side by side, Raiders and Chablis, I wonder how patient might be Chablis on the Atomic Racing channel, and if they have any, communication channel like on Discord or TeamSpeak or anything else rather between them. It's going to be quite interesting what the number 14 is thinking about, because like I said before, Chablis just had a really promising race in Laguna Seca, had a crash, mild result in Hockenheim, looking for points, always in promising positions, but always find himself on the wrong spot of something. So I think the patience on Max Chablis to try to score points might be running out a little bit, and especially as we are nearly going to the halfway of the season next round in Hungary is going to be a little bit tricky for you to try to make up points and be patient about it.
It's fast approaching halfway point in this season. Bit of a surprise, really, but there we are. It creeps up on us very, very quickly.
Yep.
Ridders, though, maybe just showcasing on that last lap why he's not been able to make the moves at turn 5, and he's had to go for some unorthodox ones, because his run through the chicane was not ideal at all last time around. But about this time, Howden clearly still looking in his mirrors and thinking about the driver behind, because he's weaving around all over the place down in towards turn 15 as Rivera's gone off, I think, at turn... Oh, it's the final corner indeed. Must have been over those curbs, and he's going to be the first driver to show us the real danger of that final chicane.
Yeah, and you can even see the right front wing a little bit bent up. We're going to look on the replay, but I'm 100% sure it's whenever he's coming back on turn 17 and putting himself on the gas, maybe turning around. Yeah, definitely turning around and caught a little bit of the grass, but you can see the front wing on the right side is bent, maybe some of a damaged wheel as well on the wheelbase on the right hand side. But unfortunate, man, really unfortunate to see that happen.
It would be the curbs, but it's the grass on the outside, and there it is. Contact, and that won't be forgotten about. Will certainly be hurting him, and you can already see Blake Zeetley actually quite close to the back of Rivera there. It's going to be a battle to keep an eye on, as this one has been. Ridders now has finally got through Michael Dowden. Now Max Chablis and Kevin McPherson are also right there. It's slightly bizarre to see, really. Dowden qualified well and comfortably inside the top 10, but seems to be really struggling at holding that place.
It's one of those tracks that I think I said it in the Jerez broadcast. I think it's one of the most technical races of the season, because you have pretty much everything. You got a lot of elevation changes, many different corners. Of course, a lot of them named after tracks, like Imola, Nürburgring, and Adelaide, and Estoril, which is turn 2 basically. So it's tricky for you to get those grooves right, and you have to be on it every single lap. Jerez was a little bit more forgiving, not in here, as we see Verdi now on the wing of John Quinn. I don't know if the number 91 is going to be able to hold this one. Even I'll pass it up to you. Finish up later.
Let's see. Side by side, Verdi trying to squeeze Quinn as much as possible to the inside line, but it wasn't really necessary. Towards turn 5, and that's a change for 5th place. So Quinn up, Verdi up a place, Quinn down a place. In towards Adelaide on that occasion, but no real arguing about that one, and not much arguing about any position inside the top 5 right now. There's some quite big gaps beginning to emerge. Even Connor Harrington now has pulled a second over Ozzy Milway. It's outside of the top 5 where the action really is. Michael Dowden still a reliable source of action, and Max Chablis still trying to find a way through. Surely it won't be long until Dowden finds himself outside the top 10.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks I think after maybe the first sector demand a little bit of grip, as we see Chablis on the outside nearly pulled up that move on Dowden, quickly shut down by Dowden. The problem is the weird exit might open the door for the 14 to come back here, Ewan, and not far behind him is is also Kevin McPherson trying to capitalize on any mistake that both drivers might actually do in the remaining corners.
And that was one of the first attempts actually we've seen in towards turn 14 by Chablis, but it was good to see. And now there is going to be an even more glaring one in towards Adelaide here surely now. Through turn 3 they'll go. McPherson here, we're on board with trying to stay within the dirty air and trying to just hold on, hang on through there. Stay as close as possible because Chablis is surely going to make a move here. Dowden will defend and push the 14 to the outside line. Deep on the brakes from Chablis, and he will have the place around here, will he? He's overdone it a little bit. Dowden on the inside line will hold the place for now, and they'll remain side by side. Outside for Chablis for the first part of this chicane, which gives him the inside for the second. He rips around there, and it's a very nice move indeed in towards that chicane. Through turn 9 and 10 they'll go. Chablis through after outside line of 2 corners in a row, but it didn't bother him. Still goes through anyway, and he's up inside the top 10.
And finally, took a little bit of time, a little bit of effort from Chablis to make that overtake work, and he actually whenever he pulled the trigger, he actually made it work, despite a little bit of a late effect into that bullet itself for the wound. Unfortunately for Dowden, just going one back and spotted and not far behind as McPherson tried to attack. I also saw when we actually saw this move down in Adelaide, Swindell's had a little bit of a spin, and from what it looked like, lost the position to Solisad, but not only that, lost a little bit of time, and I think allowed Jake Vasconcelos to come closer with the number 10 and maybe contend for a position. Don't know if it's going to be now, but it's still 3 seconds separating the number 16 to the 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's Richard Swindles in the 14th place at the moment. There's also just been a change, by the way, for Austin Harris getting up inside to the 16th position, ahead of Neil Alexander. One of the battles going on a little bit further down. By the way, we've now seen 5 drivers come down pit lane. Disa Scarlett has made a very short pit stop of less than 7 seconds. We've already said about the others. Evan Jones, though, for 4 minutes. That was in a little bit earlier on, as Eric Dubé is in for the 2nd time today, after a long stop earlier. I presume has cleared the required repairs and decided that even the optionals probably need taking as well. And so that's going to be a long time, based on what we've seen previously. And unfortunate to see a little bit further down the field. But still good battles going on in and around everywhere else. And Michael Dowden's still on the defensive here. It's now Kevin McPherson right behind. We've already seen Chablis clear them. But for Dowden, it's not over. McPherson not far behind. And Solisad looks like he's gone off the road. No. There it is. Solisad off the road down at turn 14.
Yeah, and as he comes back, I think he might lose 1, maybe 2 spots right here coming into 15. As we're going to look on the replay, what happened to Saad? From what it looks like, just too much turning, and the rear end just not gripping at all. And I think this is Julio Milwain, seeing what happened to him at the final corner, just overshooting too much, and that's why Palacio went into P3.
Absolutely. So pass going on there. And Alex Rivera, by the way, has been in from the first 5 positions, along with Takeshi Kita as well. Rivera's pit stop goes towards 30 seconds now. There you can see pit lane, the end of lap 12. This is quite a long stop for Rivera. 35 seconds, edging towards 40. And you can see now that, yeah, that'll be the damage being repaired, you'd imagine, on the right-hand side. We saw him in the wall, and unfortunately, the damage was just too much to continue with.
Yeah, I don't know if Rivera might be coming back, which might be a little bit of a downer, given the fact that he was battling for P2, got P2 at the line in Jerez by a mere 20 hundredths of a second on Stephen Verity, and unfortunately over here just paying the price with how tricky this track can be, as we see more battles throughout the track as Milwain wants to spot back on Palacio, and Palacio doing his best to continue the podium streak that he has. Not that he has, but he has top 5 streak in this championship.
Certainly does. Hasn't finished outside of that top 5 just yet, and is the only driver to do so, unsurprisingly. In towards Adelaide, though, go. Palacio on the defensive from Milwain, who's arguably quicker, but just made that mistake that last lap. And so he's going to be pushed out there. Aggressive defending from Palacio to take the racing line there. And, well, he certainly wasn't leaving anything up for debate there on the outside line. Made absolutely sure that Milwain had the door slammed in his face.
Yeah, I really wanted to look from Milwain's angle going through Adelaide. It looks like Palacio did a little bit of a pinching move on the outside whenever he was regaining acceleration. But other than that, it's fair fight between them. Just keep going at it. Who's going to think very much is basically Connor Harrington doing his best to capitalize his first podium in the championship for the private label team Hype driver that finished 4th in the Jerez round. And trying to bounce back the number 44 car. And meanwhile, not far behind. I noticed John Quinn actually having a little bit of an increase of a pace and keeping tabs on Varady, going through lap by lap, keeping the New York driver very, very honest. Whoa!
Milwain saving it, but off the... Well, oh my goodness!
Oh, Ziti!
Ziti! Oh, and in the wall! Off and around, and in the wall again for Ziti. That'll be the end of his day. Surely he's going to get out of the way, but that'll be it for Ziti. He's got no... Well, the front right is deflated, and, well, he will be as well after this. Oh, it's off entirely as he gets back going again. That was a wild moment in the background.
Yeah, I think just overcommitted too much on the first corner. Rode too much, but the second corner is what fully undid him. He's completely unlucky. I honestly thought it was actually going to be able to come back. I think if he was last fast, I think maybe, you know, last throttle, somewhat of a maybe brake applied that he tried to do. Actually, not gonna lie, might have saved his day, but unfortunately, the number 50 just with another disappointing result will fall back outside of the top 10. Another DNF for him.
Steering with brain power after the crash as well, but there we are. He's back to pit lane. That will be the end of a good run for him, I'm afraid. We've seen Gavin Ray in for the scheduled pit stop, as well as Drew Dewisi, as well as Barry Cochrane. Although this is, I mean, it's quite a long stop now for him. We've also seen John Quinn in as well. There he is in 11th place. Behind Richard Swindles at the moment for the last spot inside the top 10, despite the fact they're a half minute away from Jake Potts at the moment, who still leads this race by about 4.5 seconds. We're over the halfway mark as well in this one right now. We're closing in on the end of this one as Kevin McPherson also comes into the pit lane from the top 10. We're seeing a little bit more of this over the course of the next 10 laps or so, as we do get to the business end of this race now.
Yeah, I was taking a look on the official results during this week. They're doing 18 laps, so it's kind of like I kind of expected the pit window to start around lap maybe 13, maybe even 12. I was going to say for Rivera, because if I was Rivera, I would have gone to 12, try to do the max many repairs he could have done, then go back on track. I think up to even lap 18 or 19, depending if you save a little bit of fuel, which I think it might be the max the car can actually take you towards the end. So let's look forward to see, I think, especially into that top 5 in the Palacio Milwain fight, if anybody's going to try to do something different in terms of undercut, overcut strategies.
Could just get very busy when everyone runs out of fuel here. There might not be a lot of strategy to it, just could be carnage by the end of the pit stop window. I think you're right though. I think Rivera pitted the earliest he could to get towards the end and just repaired his damage. Unfortunately, he did drop off the lead lap as a result of that, and he's nearly a half minute back off James Carter, who is the driver next in front of him, I'm afraid, in this one. So Rivera will be leaving today wondering what could have been today, I'm afraid, which is a real shame. Down towards the turn 15 they'll go. To Swindles and John Quinn here, using the layout of the pit lane, by the way, that enters just as they turn into the chicane. They'll just go straight on instead, and they'll get into pit lane that way. I seem to remember, I don't know if this is an old version of Magny-Cours or whatever, certainly not an iRacing version, but where he went straight on just after turn 15 and had to go around there. I don't know if that's old school. But clearly it's not like that anymore. And you have to enter during the chicane.
I think it changed. If I remember correctly, back in the days they used to run back in the 90s, I think the entry is really at turn 15, right? And you're 100% correct on that. They had to go towards the outside, I think, break a little bit, kind of like what they do in a few tracks, kind of like taking a penalty line of sorts, like you would do in the motorbikes, and then commit. Because I think they made some slight modifications for track improvements and safety measures. That's why I think the entry of the pit lane is now there.
He might have just been struggling for fuel there. Lost a lot of time on this final lap. He had nearly 5 seconds worth, but now down to a second with Harrington right behind. And this is going to be an interesting stop now. Oh, it was not fuel. It was just an off-track moment down at turn 14. Brakes too late. Almost clumsily takes a trip through the gravel there. And Jake Potts will be ruining that. He does have a half-second shorter pit stop than Harrington, so restores a 2.5-second lead here. But that was a really, obvious and bizarre lapse in concentration.
Yeah, and it can usually happen on these in-laps because you're so focused trying to get your race line correct, or you're thinking about a pit stop. Oh, I have to come in, so I need to stay consistent. So because you might be overthinking about one stuff, I think that's why Potts right there just made the blunder going into hard in turn 14, going and then completely take Chateau d'Eau incorrectly and understeering the car into the gravel.
Was bizarre. See, considering how calm and composed Jake Potts has been so far this race. A rare mistake. There we are. He's restored his lead. Nearly 3 seconds it is now on the other end of the pit stops, and Stephen Varady, one of the only drivers anyway, to be able to stretch this fuel tank out to 18 laps here in this race today. James O'Brien has also been able to do that. NASCAR Cup Series regular in catch on Sunday nights. As Varady also makes his way down pit lane and will give the lead back to Jake Potts again. But maybe that's given Harrington that little bit of hope that he needed to tackle the final third of this race.
Yeah, I really want to look towards this outlap because from what it looks like, I think Eddie Hope might be a little bit down in the dust. From what it looks like, the outlap was actually much better for Potts than Harrington. I think Harrington took a little bit of a more cautious line because it was just basically a full second slower on the outlap than Jake Potts. As we see the track conditions, not the hottest around the track with 84 Fahrenheit, giving around 26, 25 degrees around the track, and this I'm doing Fahrenheit to Celsius mathematics.
Yes, it's always hard work, but yeah, it's roughly just if you're being lazy, just divide it by 3, and you'll get you'll get roughly the. It's quite inaccurate sometimes, but you'll get around there. It's not too bad. It's not too warm, and luckily for pretty much everybody watching this, you will understand Fahrenheit, so that's fine. We don't need to. It's absolutely fine. On board with Stephen Varady after that long run in Austin. He's made his pit stop. It's now out just behind John Quinn, and they're now fighting for 5th position. They've picked up quite a few places in the last few laps, and this is quite a high position they're now fighting for, and it will be fought over as well. Quinn with the advantage right now, but Varady applying all the pressure just to fresh out the pit lane. I don't think the fact that they pitted 4 laps apart will really play too much of a role, but it is something to note.
I think it did because Quinn was very fast after his pit stop. Like very consistent. This one surprised me a little bit to get on the jump of like Ritter, Chablis, and specifically I think I see Ray having some issues around the track and just coming back one car. But regardless, good to see Quinn fighting back to try to get within the top 5 for the first time this season for him.
Oh dear, that was going wrong from a long way out. Down at turn 9 for Gavin Ray, one of the first drivers to make a scheduled pit stop here today. He's down to 16th place, but gets back going again. We already have 4 confirmed retirements, I'm afraid, one of them being Lucas Hill, who's 4th place in the point standings at the moment. That is going to be damaging to him, and he will drop way more than the 42 points he's currently off the championship lead, up to somewhere close to 80, with Giulio Palacio currently running in the 4th position right now. While once again Palacio could see it, well, he's continuing his run of top 5 runs here, but he is, you know, not looking the strongest in the field today. He is putting points into a lot of those close to him in the championship standings, and it's exactly the sort of consistent drive you'd want from a championship leader.
No, absolutely. You know, just if I remember correctly, it's the only driver that has not fell off the top 5 this season. Also, the only driver that had a podium, I think, every single race part one, as Harry didn't have any problems.
Well, it might even be a podium for Palacio. Harrington off the road. It's I think we can guess what's happened here through the final chicane. It's either grass or curb, and you can get your votes in quickly because we're about to find out.
Or as we look towards the replay, just taking too much curb and grass on the way of Connor and the New York. Now for the base driver coming back on track, just losing a lot of time. Luckily for him, no wall. I was actually going to say there's a third thing we could mention besides both of these is the private label team hype podium curse.
Well, there we are. I'm not going to dive into that discussion quite now. But,
I can take whatever Joshua chose at me.
But there we are. Harrington, unfortunately, off the podium place. It's allowed Potts to restore a 7-second lead now, and he's just got to stroke this one home from this point. But it could be interesting elsewhere inside the top 5, as it is here with Quinn, very much looking over his shoulders right now. And the longer this race goes on, the better Stephen Varady seems to get. A nicer line through Imola there, the chicane, and it's down in towards turn 14. Quite an obvious enough braking zone and overtaking opportunity for him to really think about that. He'll once again get the run towards 15, maybe try, but he'll have to stay behind once again and wait for his opportunity at turn 5. But he seems to be struggling really where it's really important. You see him lose a bit of time through the chicane there. Maybe not quite as quick where he needs to be to have that dive at turn 5.
Yeah, but it's a tricky one, you know. Even though you might take a different line of entry, Estoril is so big. And you can even see a little bit of a drift for Quinn that is actually going to open up the room over here for Varady to make the move before Adelaide.
Maybe that's what he needed. Maybe he needed the mistake of John Quinn to allow him into the top 5. Stephen Varady through then on the inside line at Adelaide. He will get through with a little resistance really. Quinn showed him the inside line and said, there you go. He goes for the cutback towards turn 7 and 8. He'll have to stay behind and come back again later, based on the pace that these two have shown so far. They probably, he probably won't be able to, although, Varady gets it all wrong in towards turn 9, immediately gets too excited, and they'll go side by side through turn 10 towards the chicane at Imola as well. Quinn straight back through once again. This battle at the moment being defined by mistakes.
Yeah, what happened from Varady go around the 180-degree corner of turn number 9 and completely fumble it. I know it is a tricky corner because it's just coming off Nürburgring and completely botched it. Of course, that might be a little bit of banking right there, but I don't think that would be enough to offset the New York base driver to do such a very big blunder and allow Quinn to catch back that position.
Wow. I really thought that once Varady was through, he'd be off and away, but maybe he thought the same as well, but just slides in towards turn 9. I think it just highlights what a difficult corner it is, really. You're coming from a high-speed chicane at Nürburgring there through turn 7 and 8, and then you're slowing down around a corner into towards turn 9. We've already spoken about how difficult is on the brakes in these cars, but when you ask them to turn and brake at the same time, it's even harder.
And not only that, they're very sensitive towards braking while you actually try to make a corner, because some of these corners are kind of tricky that you kind of have to have a little bit of an early apex and kind of grab by the horns and stay within that early apex. And this car is quite sensitive towards that input sensitivity. So let's just say you start making a corner, you're trying to make the turn in. Even if you try to do too fast, even the pinion, the steering pinion, if it is the quickest setting, might be enough to offset the car just slightly enough for to start sliding a little bit more. That's probably what have happened to Verity right there, as they are struggling for grip now into these final laps. But there are things that we can take a look maybe on the setup later, talk to them in the future. Maybe not this broadcast, but future endeavors to talk about these setup technicalities the F3 offers.
It's very, very tricky, as we've seen so far today. John Quinn still 5th place. Already trying to get through in that battle there. Did briefly see Giulio Palacio actually get quite close to Ozzy Milwane for 2nd place, but that quickly went away. And Connor Harrington is not too far away either. There's plenty going on here in the top 10.
Yeah, Palacio 32.2 on the last lap, 31.5 for Harrington on the previous. So the private label team hype driver is going to be back at his Sully Saab with another problem and just making his race much more miserable. Meanwhile, just really quickly, Ewan, interesting stuff about Jay Potts. First time into the top 10, looking like first another winner here on the PRL. Also, Chablis, first time into the top 10, and Kevin McPherson also first time into the top 10. So three new guys into the top 10 this season for the F3 series.
Absolutely, what a topsy-turvy start to the season it's been, really. To get 4 different winners in the first 4 races would be very, very impressive in any season, in any championship, even at the PRL, never mind elsewhere as well. It would be quite remarkable. Jake Potts has got 4 laps to secure that right now. Ozzy Milwane chasing, but more like looking over his shoulder and running from the guys behind. It's 0.8 of a second to Palacio, another half second to Harrington, who's possibly looking most threatening here, but there are big gaps between all of these three. There's not long to go now. They're going to have to get significantly closer than this to improve their position, all of them. Further behind, Harity is doing the same. He has got a lot closer to John Quinn and might try it again in towards Adelaide. He did it with the inside line not so long ago. Interestingly, not even attempting this time.
Yeah, and not only that, look at Ritter's behind, coming in quickly. I was just taking a look at his laps. They're doing 32s mids, meanwhile 32 nearly flat for Ritter. So in the last few laps, Ritter's just coming in quickly and quickly and quickly. So the atomic driver now can maybe, who knows, be the third wheel into this battle and maybe get, instead of them, into the top 5.
Well, that would be a surprise. Ritters has recovered quite well actually after a qualifying he might well be disappointed with, but if he were to be able to get another top 5, it would be a great help to his championship and reduce the amount of points he's losing today to Giulio Palacio in the championship standings. But as I said at the start of the broadcast, probably too early for us to be worrying too deeply about that right now, but we like to, even this early on. 3 laps to go. Oh, for 5th place. It can't be helping that Quinn and Verity are focusing on each other. It's allowed British to catch up. That's a lap car off the road at the final chicane. Oh dear, that's going to be a rejoin that makes everybody wince. Everybody's fine though. This is where the real positional changes could be though. Ritter's very close. Doesn't get quite off of Esteban quite as cleanly as he maybe would have wanted, and despite the slipstream he'll be getting from Quinn, it's a double for Ritters, and he'll also get it from Quinn, who stays on the racing line. Outside line, very deep on the brakes. He pinches in on Verity as well. It's all the way around Adelaide, and it's a very nice pass for 6th place.
And nicely done for Ritter's right there, as capitalizing the move, doesn't allow Verity to come back and attack and halt him for the final 2 laps of the race, and he still has enough gap to actually get closer towards Quinn and challenge the number 91 for the top 5. But I think after this blunder might be a little bit more difficult going around the 180 degree, and Ritter's really, Verity rather, looking for that comeback move on him. The question is where?
It's not here, by the looks of things. Out of
Quinn,
turn 14 they'll go. Here we go towards 15. on the getting onto the penultimate lap. It's all very close here, and we're ramping up to a bit of a finale for second place as well. Palacio was very close to Milwain last lap. Harrington closer than ever as well, with Ridders not quite willing to take the risks over the final chicane. Varady gets close all at the same time. It's quite hard to know where to look at the moment. Through turns 1, 2 and 3. Varady very close, although just doesn't seem quite as strong through 3 as Ridders does, especially on the exit there. Ridders mastering the late apex and the better run on the back straight here towards Adelaide, and the best overtaking opportunity on the lap. Ozzy Milwain still in front of Palacio, who's increasing that pressure right to the end and just hoping that he's not run out of laps here.
Yeah, he has about a lap and a half to do it right here. He's not going to be done anything throughout 2 unless Milwain does a big mistake and opens the door for Palacio and eventually Connor Harrington to make any moves, as Palacio just, I think, establishing its patience, trying to maybe look for a last lap overtake around Adelaide and hope that Harrington doesn't do anything crazy enough to allow the private label team Hype to come closer and snipe their podium spots as they go around 14.
Absolutely. This is going to be right to the line, as it will be for 5th place. But Milwain defending from the front. He hasn't had to do a lot of it so far this race. It's of course all stemmed from Connor Harrington's troubles at the final chicane not so long ago. Spinning and falling down the order. It's allowed Milwain second, it's allowed Palacio into third. But look at Harrington now. A great run out the final corner. It wasn't even that Palacio really made a mistake, but Harrington's on a charge and up to 3rd place as there's a spin for Ridders in the background. He'll go from 2nd place in points and he'll lose some more. As he gets back going again, he might just cling on to a top 10, but really a big shame for Stephen Ridders, who drops down to 9th. Meanwhile, Palacio trying to get 3rd place back from Connor Harrington. Down in towards turn 5, he's stuck on the outside and won't be able to do it.
Oh, and Connor showing his prowess with open wheeler cars like he used to do back in the IR18, like in Lionheart Series and things like that, you know. Just not allowing Palacio to have any room around Adelaide and nearly touching wheels, and does the 44 able to capitalize over here with a few corners to go. But we all know this race already has its owner. Jake Potts, I think, should be coming closer and closer towards the finish line.
And he will be. Out of turn 14 goes Jake Potts, and it's been a bit of a lonely race for him over the 28 laps around here. He won't mind that at all. Milwain will have to battle Harrington right to the line, but it will be Jake Potts through the final couple of corners to win at Magny-Cours and become the 4th different winner in 4 races in the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series. Ozzy Milwain will hang on to a podium as well, with Harrington charging right at the end. Points leader Palacio will continue to extend his championship lead to possibly upwards of 30 points after only 4 rounds. With Quinn, oh my goodness me, that's a mess in the background. What the hell's going on there? It's Varady and Shabley. Sorry, excuse me, Varady's already crossed the line. It was a lap car, I think. So it went wildly off the road at the final corner. That was a spectacular ending for them. Stephen Ridders came over the line 9th, just ahead of McPherson inside the top 10. Bit of a battle there between someone on the lead lap and someone not on the lead lap. As this battle between James O'Brien and Sully Sad will go to the line. The final one we'll be able to watch here this evening. Sully Sad with a last gasp move maybe in towards turn 15. Not quite. James O'Brien will hang on and he will finish 13th, just ahead of the 079 at the very line. So this is what happened on the very final lap. The penultimate lap involving Stephen Ridders. We didn't quite get to see it live in pictures because a lot was going on at the time, including a pass for 3rd place as we're watching this. But it was all going wrong for Ridders, I'm afraid, in the final chicane. Once again, curb or grass? Well, it's going to be grass, and he'll be frustrated to make that mistake on the penultimate lap.
Most definitely. I know I would. I think you would as well, Ewan. So nothing we could do right there. As we had a very thrilling race as we're going to look towards official results for Magny-Cours.
We certainly did have an exciting race, but it was Jake Potts who took the victory by quite some distance by the end. And 9 seconds was the winning margin. Ozzy Milwain, Connor Harrington, Julia Palacio came over the line pretty much together, with John Quinn fending off Stephen Varady for a top 5. Max Shabley was 7th, ahead of Michael Dowden, who still managed to top 10. Stephen Ridders and Kevin McPherson round out that top 10. Richard Swindles was 11th, ahead of Jake Vasconcelos. Then James O'Brien holding off Sully Sad to the line. Neil Alexander 15th. Ahead of Gavin Ray, Takeshi Kita and Oliver Hartley, the final drivers on the lead lap, with Ndisha Scholar and Drew Duese in the top 20. Barry Cochrane, Alex Rivera and James Carter all crossed the line 1 lap down. Evan Jones was 24th, ahead of Austin Harris, and Lucas Hill and Blake Ziti both 13 laps down. Eric Dubé and Michael O'Quinn round out the 29 drivers that ended up starting this race. Oh, a very interesting race indeed, but now we'll be able to bring in Jake Potts, the race winner from that one, and have a bit of a chat with him. Now, Jake, welcome to the move. Good to have you here. A victory by 9 seconds in the end. Quite some margin between you and the rest. What was it like driving this F3 car around Magny-Cours here tonight?
Oh man, it's been awesome. The Connor Wagner made the setup this week, and it is awesome. I'm really enjoying it, and I've just been practicing a lot, and had some really good lap times, so I was feeling really good around here.
So there were a lot of battles going on behind you, of course, but in terms of tactically during this race, you didn't actually have to do that much. What was it like in the first half of the race? Was it just a case of getting your head down, I guess?
Yeah, I really wanted to get pole in qualifying so that I could just pull away, hopefully, and hopefully 2 and 3 would battle behind me, and I could just get a big gap, and that's kind of what happened. And so I just kept focusing, putting good lap times in, pulling away, and then I had a little slip up there coming into the pit lane, a couple corners before that, and almost lost it all there. But thankfully still had like a 3-second gap, and recovered, and I guess another wreck happened behind or something, and ended up with that 9-second gap at the end.
Absolutely. It was a nice winning margin, but very deserved indeed. Jake, congratulations on the win here tonight, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Jake Potts, winner here at Magny-Cours, just ahead of Ozzy Milwain, who hasn't joined us, but Connor Harrington has from third place, and we can bring him in now. Connor, welcome to the move as well. Good to have you here. Third place for you. It got quite close, actually, for the lead at one point, but then you obviously had that spin just after lap 20 or so. Just tell us a little bit about what it's like driving this car through that final chicane, because to me it just looks really awkward.
Yeah, it's really awkward. There's a couple ways to approach it. You either just kind of have to tiptoe around the curbs, or you have to just, kind of just launch it over it. And we just got caught out there. Just took a little too much curb, and then barely caught the grass on the right hand side, and that's what sent us. We just didn't get the right bounce, but we tried something I think a little bit different in terms of direction with the setup, and it didn't take off particularly quick. But once the field kind of strung out there in the middle, I thought we were matching with Jake. I don't know if we had any real pace for him, but I was just trying to protect the rear tires as much as I could, and just a bummer that we made a mistake there, but happy to get by and finish third.
Absolutely. It's still a good result. I mean, what was it like in terms of trying to overtake people around here at Magny-Cours? Obviously, I mentioned that mistake, but you did use that final chicane, incidentally, to make a move on Palacio as well, to get back up into the podium positions. You have that long straight around here, but also there's a lot of high-speed chicanes and corners where it's not so easy to overtake. So how was it finding yourself back in traffic again?
Yeah, the setups they're so high downforce, and they're that's where we generate a lot of the grip is from the clean air and with all the wing that we can put on it. So when you're behind somebody, you're just sliding nonstop. And I mean, and if you can drive through the slide and not hurt your tires too much, you can get yourself into position to make move. It's so hard, especially with that second corner. It's so long, and you're just begging for clean air, and you just don't get it, and you just kind of start sliding the front or the rear, and you don't get the best run off to make a dive going down into the hairpin. But our private label Team Hype machine was pretty good, and we'll take a third place considering it's the first time we've ever been on the racetrack. So.
Absolutely. Congratulations on a podium tonight, Connor, and thanks for chatting to us.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks very much, Connor Harrington. Third place here today at Magny-Cours. Well, that is just about going to do it for us here today in the northern part of France. We'll be heading across the English Channel and towards the south of England for the next round. Brands Hatch coming up, same place, same time, here on RaceSpotTV as more PRL action will get underway. We've got a few nights off now, but the NASCAR Cup Series will be returning on Sunday night. Plenty of racing between now and then as well. Thanks very much for watching here this evening. It's been great to bring this coverage to you here tonight, but now we will bid our farewells. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Lorenzo Bonda here this evening with Conor Maddock behind the cameras, and until we see you in 1 week's time at Brands Hatch, it's goodbye for now.